Welcome back sa GameGrace channel at ngayong araw na ito, magre-react ulit tayo sa gawa ng Wansee Entertainment Horror Animated Stories. So bago ang lahat, nais ko lamang i-shoutout si Elijah Liv Balyaran, Diana C, at si Vamos Comer. So salamat po sa palaging pagsuporta sa GameGrace channel at sana po ma-enjoy ninyo ang video content ko. Let's go! Ooh.
One day, I was on my way back from a school party. I was with my friends, but please keep in mind I was only 20 years old. We were drunk, so we really didn't know where our Uber driver was taking us. He took us through this road called Sunol in California, and everyone in the car knew this road had a
Sunol pala, akala ko sana all.
very upsetting story behind it. We didn't care since we were all drunk and it was 3 a.m. We just wanted to go home. At what seemed like the end of the ride, the driver stopped at the side of the road and let in this girl. She sat in the back seat of the car. She claimed her name was Mary.
Nakadress? Puting-puti? Dun pala magduda ka na eh.
All of our hearts dropped when we saw she had a dress on. It was a white dress. She also claimed that her husband dumped her on her wedding night. She said she was trying to find a ride for 3 hours, but she couldn't since it was too dark outside. When I got a good look at her, I was shaking because she was tearing up blood. I whispered to my good friend Dominic. I told him about the Bloody Mary story. I told him that it took place on this very road and that the girl might be a ghost. Right as I finished that sentence, she looked at me through the rearview mirror with her bright, white eyes and asked us if we were talking about her. My heart dropped once again. We asked the guy to pull over, but he insisted on dropping us off at our location. One of my female friends in the car started crying after Mary started reciting all of our names from the back of the car. We were scared because we didn't tell her our names. Now everyone in the car was crying except for me. It felt like we were driving forever, but it had only been 10 minutes. It got brighter out, and we realized that no one was in the back. It was a night spirit that was there.
Bigla na lang nawala at ang nakakapagtaka, bigla na lang lumiwanag.
And it left because it was now morning. The next morning, I thought about what happened while I was taking a shower. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a scratch on my neck.
Makulit ka kasi pinag-uusapan ninyo, nasa likod nyo lang eh. Ayan tuloy, nagalit. I think I saw a baby ghost.
I was born in 1984. This incident was from 1989.
Tagal na.
I was 5 years old then. I'm a guy, the middle child of 5 siblings. It was late 1989 when my mom was giving birth to our youngest sister. My mom was having labor, and my dad and a family friend were taking her to the hospital of our town. My eldest sister and I were left alone at home. I have no clue about ghosts and hauntings by that time. I wasn't sure how much time has passed since they left for the hospital, but I guessed it's about midnight or just before it. When my sister fell asleep, I was sitting beside her on the couch. I am sure I was wide awake and watching my elder sis sleeping. The couch was just by the window, and the window was high above the ground. There's no way anyone could climb up the wall. It was then, at that exact moment, that I saw a hand on the outside of the window pane. The hand of a baby, from the wrist upward, with the palm facing me. Maybe I was too young to get scared, or I didn't.
Ang galing eh, no? Dahil sa sobrang bata pa niya, hindi niya alam yung konsepto ng multo o ng pagkatakot sa mga ganun. Kaya parang normal lang sa kanya no? Yung nakita niya yung kamay sa labas.
Know how to react. I'm not sure. I just kept staring at the hand. At that time, I thought that the hand was of my to-be-born younger babies. I can't tell what exactly happened after that. What I'm sure of was that my parents came home the next morning with our new baby sister. I told my mom about the thing after I was 25 years old.
Ang tagal bago niya ikwento yun. Grabe. Ang galing niya magtago ng sekreto ah.
I've got chills when I think about that night. I wonder why I didn't get scared or horrified. Maybe I was too young, as I've said before. I don't know. I'm sure I saw what I saw. If that night was not then, but one of these nights, I'd be screaming my lungs out or froze to death.
This incident took place in Dubai when I was 10.
Wow.
I used to go to my friend's apartment to play with him at the time of vacation. One day, as usual, I went to his room to play. After playing for a long time, I went to the bathroom. While I was washing my face off and other things suddenly started to fall down. I was surprised. I thought maybe it was because of wind, but when I checked the surroundings, I found out there wasn't any window in the bathroom. I got out and told my friend the incident. He told me that there's a ghost in his room. I freaked out.
Casual lang niya na sinabi na merong multo dun sa room niya eh, no? Hindi man lang sinabi in advance para nakapaghanda yung kaibigan niya.
At first, I didn't believe him. However, then next his mother and father explained the paranormal activities which had taken place there since they moved into that place. His father was making a burrito in the kitchen one day and suddenly a call came for him. He kept the burrito on the stove and attended the call. After attending the call, when he came back, he was surprised to find out that the burrito was burning down in flames from the stove. But he said he was definitely sure that he hadn't turned on the stove yet. Another day, while his mother was cooking food, suddenly she felt as if someone was choking her by holding her throat from behind, and she fled out of the kitchen with a scream. The same day, while they were sleeping at night, they heard sounds from the bathroom. And when they checked it out, they found all the things, such as bottles of toilet cleaner and other things, had been scattered inside the bathroom. And that story made me suddenly freeze. This was the exact same incident which occurred to me. They had called some group of ghost hunters and
Parang Ghostbuster eh. O kaya yung yung mag-partner sa sa Insidious. Yung kompleto pa sa paranormal equipments. Dapat tinawag nila dito si Ed Calwag eh.
Grabe. Ayoko ng ganyan.
did some sort of rituals and found out that two people had been murdered by someone. To know if this was true, they went to the flat owner, and he said just the same thing like the ghost hunters and apologized for giving them this room. They moved out the next day after my visit to their house. Well, to this day, I still wonder what would have happened to me if I had stayed there for some more time. My name is Christian. This happened 3 years ago, and I was living in a dormitory with my best friend, Miko. I was a civil engineering student at that time, and Miko was a pharmacy student. The dormitory where we were staying had 9 rooms overall. Our room was quite small, but enough space for 2 people. The kitchen was at the opposite end of the entrance door, and we had no fire exit. The restroom was just at the left side of the kitchen, and the bed, that we even shared together, was on the right side. And there was a table in the middle where we used to eat, or make it as a study table. Our dormitory had rumors about ghosts in there, but we hadn't encountered any in our 2 years staying. So one day on Friday morning, before going to school, we decided to put a hot cup of coffee in the sink. I know that was such a stupid thing, but we were curious about it. If this became empty when we came back from the school, then this is a haunted dormitory, I told him.
Mga loko-loko, sinusubukan. Ayan, tingnan natin kung anong makikita ninyo.
Then we left for school. And soon I forgot about the coffee thing because I was quite busy with the calculus examination. After that, when I came back to the dorm around 7 p.m., I saw Miko was sleeping in his bed. It was quite weird since usually when I come back to the room, he was either playing games or cooking in the kitchen. But it didn't bother me since it was a midterm season and I thought that he might just be exhausted. Suddenly, I remembered the mug of coffee that we put in the sink earlier in the morning. I put my bag on the table and headed straight to the sink. I saw the coffee was still full. So I said, "Told you, there's no ghost." So I poured out the hot coffee and washed the cup. Right after I washed the cup, my phone inside my pocket vibrated. Someone was calling me. I looked at the phone, and it was Miko. I stared at the bed where Miko was still lying and sleeping. I shouted, "Hey man, why are you calling me?" But he didn't respond. So I thought inside my head, did he leave his phone at school? I answered the call. "Hello?" To my shock and disbelief, it was Miko. It was his voice, and he said, "Dude, just eat without me if you're already hungry. I'm still at the mall buying our food supply for next week." I was frozen. I was so confused and terrified at the time until I got the courage to say, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, sorry, but I'm almost done at the counter. I'm just gonna drive home now if you can wait. Let's eat together. Bye." And hung up.
Ibig sabihin, dahil nga sa gusto nilang subukan kung meron talagang nagmumulto dun sa dormitory nila, ginamit nila yung tasa ng kape kung mauubos ba pag uwi nila. Ibig sabihin meron. Pero syempre, ayaw naman din magpauto nung multo. Iba ang ginawang patunay bilang ebidensya na naandun siya. Parang naging doppelganger. Ginaya niya yung ka-roommate niya.
I was there standing still in the kitchen and couldn't move while still looking at the man in the bed. Then I realized the cup of coffee. We left it in the morning. When I went to the dorm, it was not empty as we expected, but it was still hot.
Wait. Ibig sabihin, inubos yung kape tapos ni-refill pa. Aba, may pambihira pala tong na to eh. Mahusay. Mahusay. Kanina hindi ko napansin yun na umuusok-usok pa pala. Mainit pa nga. Ibig sabihin, bagong-bago pa lang.
It should have cooled down. I looked back at the sink for 1 second, and to my terror, when I looked again at the bed, he was no longer there. I screamed, ran out of the room, and waited for my best friend. When Miko was finally home after 40 minutes, I told him what happened and saw his confused, scared reaction. After
Makulit kayo sinusubukan nyo kasi ayan tuloy pinakitaan kayo.
that night, we decided to transfer to another dormitory, and fortunately, nothing happened anymore in the new place. But I will never forget this memory. Forever.
When I was a little girl, I was scared of sleeping alone, so I used to sleep with my mom. Eventually, I had to toughen up and sleep by myself. Well, this happened when I was in high school. I had a twin-size bed in my room and decided to leave both my door and my mom's door open. Our bodies were facing opposite directions. I couldn't sleep that night, so I turned on my MP3 player and was laying in bed listening to music. All of a sudden, I felt a little strange, so I turned my head around, and at that moment, I froze. I saw a person's foot on my mom's body. First of all, if someone gets too nervous, it's hard to look around clearly. However, I slowly looked up, and then I saw the face of the person standing on her body. Literally, someone was standing on my mom's body. Well, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. I wanted to turn my head around again, but I couldn't. I couldn't open my mouth or even listen to music anymore. I couldn't take my eyes off his face.
Grabe! Ang laki ng mata eh, oh. Parang ano? Parang Cyclops?
His mouth was stretching and getting bigger and bigger until eventually it ripped right under his ear. I could see that the inside of his mouth was all red. I wanted to wake my mom up somehow, so I gathered up enough courage as I could. Mom! As soon as I yelled, everything disappeared like smoke. She ran into my room, hugged me, and reassured me that everything was okay. I was leaning on her now so that I could calm down. Soon after, I put my earphones back in and turned on my MP3 player. And that moment was really crazy and just plain scary. All of my files were gone. I had around 300 songs on the device, but all the songs were erased for no reason. I couldn't sleep at all that night and still felt bad even after waking up the next morning, so I ended up breaking my MP3 player. This happened not long after we moved into our house in 2003. It was a nice and big house, which was made in the 1950s. One day I was in my backyard watering the grass, and then out of the corner of my eye, I saw something that made me pause. There was a man standing next to the shrubs near our backyard's wall. He was dressed like a carpenter. His head looked like it was tilted sideways, and his body was slightly facing our fences sideways. Then he saw me and smiled kindly at me.
Wait lang. Smile kindly? Hindi smile creepy? Friendly yata ate. Parang hindi gagawa ng masama.
First, I thought he was fixing someone's house, and that it was his job. However, only after he faced me, I realized that wasn't the case. When I looked at him with narrowed eyes, I noticed that his neck was visibly broken, causing his head to awkwardly tilt to the side. I then saw that he waved at me once, but I was too shocked to scream at the time. After I regained consciousness, I looked around, but he had vanished and had literally faded away. 2 nights later, I woke up at 3 a.m. Noise was coming from my ceiling. It sounded like someone wearing construction boots was walking very slowly. I started to freak out, thinking that it might be a thief. However, I suddenly realized that that part of the roof was so thin, which meant nobody could walk on it. The steps abruptly stopped after a while, and when I felt at ease, I heard another horrible sound. I heard a sharp scream that sounded like a man, then a loud thud, as if someone had dropped on my ceiling, followed after. I covered my head with a blanket. My hands and whole body shivered, and after 10 minutes of nothing, I peeked outside. It was completely quiet. I saw and heard nothing, but I couldn't fall back asleep that night. The next morning, I started to look up the history of the house. To my surprise, it turned out that there was a report about the carpenter I met a few days before in the backyard. In 1958, he had been hired to fix the roof while the owners were on vacation. However, the carpenter had fallen abruptly through the weak spot on the roof while he was working and had broken his neck. He couldn't scream for help, and no one ever knew what happened to him as the owners were gone for 2 weeks. He was finally found when they came back, but had already died. This happened right above my bedroom. Suddenly, I felt bad for the poor guy, and I guess he's still looking after things. Since then, I've seen him sometimes, but I'm no longer afraid of him.
Ang galing, no? Nung story na hindi talaga siya as in na purong katatakutan lang, kundi meron din talagang story behind kung bakit anong naririnig niya, bakit ganun yung nakikita niya dahil pala dun sa nangyari sa kawawang karpintero. 2 weeks ba namang wala yung amo dahil sa bakasyon, wala talagang makakatulong sa kanya nung naaksidente siya. So, kawawa talaga. Hindi magandang experience. So, ingat. Please support and subscribe GameGrace channel at nagko-cover ako ng iba't ibang klaseng laro at nagko-cover din po ako at gumagawa ng reaction video at sana po masuportahan niyo po ako na mag-grow ang GameGrace channel. Maraming salamat po!